Nancy Drew Ransom of the Seven Ships is a bad game, but people generally agree that the culprit was well done. I won't spoil the culprit's identity for those of you who haven't played the game, but I will say it's a culprit from a previous game. That's why it's well done. It was interesting to see a culprit come back to try to get revenge on Nancy. Since the culprit was a highlight of the game, I would fix Ransom of the Seven Ships by going all out on the returning culprit angle. Let's not just have one culprit from a previous game. Let's have four culprits from previous games. That's how you fix Ransom of the Seven Ships. You have four different suspects. All of them are former culprits. Maybe they're working together to get revenge on Nancy. Which four suspects would I pick? I would prioritize the culprits from the popular games. Sorry, Creature of Kapu Cave. I'd also prioritize getting the original voice actors to return. You can tell the returning culprit in Ransom of the Seven Ships was voiced by a different person. They don't even try to imitate the original voice. It doesn't ruin the game, but it is kind of a bummer. If possible, I'd get characters from different eras. Someone from games 1 through 5, someone from games 6 through 10, games 11 through 15, and games 16 through 19. That way it's sort of an even spread of villains. So how about Treasure in the Royal Tower, Secret of the Scarlet Hand, Secret of Shadow Ranch, and Phantom of Venice? Those can be my four. Imagine how much money they would save on animation by reusing old character models. This would be great! So how would the characters fit into the game? We could still have Johnny Roll as a beach bum, just have him pretend to be Australian the whole time, instead of an Australian pretending to be Jamaican. That was weird and slightly racist. I'm thinking we could have a male and female culprit pretending to be the Gibsons, the people who own the resort. Ransom of the Seven Ships tries to trick players into thinking the Gibsons are secretly hiding on the island, and they're obviously not. So, you could improve the game by actually having the Gibsons there. 2 extra characters. I could see them hanging out at the cabana where George is. I like George, but I would definitely replace her and Cuckoo the Parrot with 2 new suspects, if we had to make a choice between those 2 options. Also, I think it would be pretty entertaining to see 2 of the culprits pretend to be married. Maybe that's just me. The third culprit could be one of the monkey researchers. That way, Nancy has an actual reason to solve the monkey puzzles. It's not her getting bossed around by animals for most of the game. It's a culprit who's making her jump through hoops for their own amusement. If the game had to get rid of the monkeys in order to have another suspect, the trade would be well worth it. It's not an exaggeration to say the original game was ruined because it only had one character. That ruined the mystery. Everyone knows Johnny is the culprit. He's literally the only option. I don't understand why Nancy put up with the long treasure hunt instead of immediately going to Johnny and demanding her friend's release. Nancy and George could totally take Johnny on their own. The lack of characters also ruined the story, to the point where there's almost no story for the middle 80% of the game. Normally in Nancy Drew games, the different characters interact with each other, and things actually happen with them. Even when the characters don't interact directly, they at least talk about each other. But all of that is impossible in Ransom of the Seven Ships. You can't have characters interact when the game only has one character. So what should these characters look like? I think at least one of them should make no effort to disguise themselves, because that would be hilarious. What? Oh no, I've never tried to kill you. You must have me confused with my brother. There are definitely other mysteries where a culprit pretends to be their brother or sister as part of a low-effort disguise. A wig or a hat could also work as a good disguise. Imagine the culprit just wearing an ugly pair of sunglasses and pretending they're a totally different person. That would be hilarious. Maybe some of the characters from the older games wouldn't need disguises. I'm thinking of Secrets Can Kill. So, when they did the remastered version, half of the original characters look and sound like totally different people. Even the culprit in Ransom of the Seven Ships looks different enough from his original appearance that I could believe he's a different person. It's almost like he didn't need a disguise. And, the Hardy Boys get multiple redesigns in the series. They all look fairly different to me. So the culprits don't necessarily need to look 100% like their original appearances in order for this idea to work. I've seen people argue that the Nancy Drew series can't bring back culprits because that ruins things for anyone who plays the games out of order. This is true. I wonder how many people were spoiled because they saw the culprit in this game before seeing his original appearance. Not to mention, things make slightly less sense when you don't know the culprit's backstory. It's not too bad in Ransom of the Seven Ships. You understand the culprit wants revenge on Nancy, even if you don't know specifically what he wants revenge for. I actually would have liked some reference to the culprit's original game just for context. All Nancy says is, "You're the guy from that state who threatened that one victim." It's like she was being vague on purpose. It worked, so why not go with that? Keep it vague the whole time. Nancy can say things like, "You remind me of someone I met in Europe," rather than specifically naming the game or the situation. That way, there aren't any spoilers. Another option is to have non-culprits as returning characters, just to throw players off. Let's say the monkey researcher is Katie from Danger on Deception Island. Nobody would suspect her because she was a victim in her game. And it would be a huge plot twist at the end when it's revealed it's not Katie. She's a certain red-headed culprit in disguise as Katie. Yeah, that's probably how I do it. One culprit is in disguise as a former victim, one culprit's in disguise as Johnny Roll, who's a new character, and the other two culprits are pretending to be the Gibsons. I want one of them to be completely undisguised, while the other's an older character, that is a character from an older game, who looks different enough that they don't need a disguise. That could add to the mystery. Nancy would wonder how a former culprit seems to have such a nice normal marriage. Did they change their criminal ways? Another option is to have the Gibsons and the monkey researcher be totally new characters while keeping Johnny Roll as the former culprit in disguise. I prefer having the other characters be former culprits, but that's not necessary. Having 3 other suspects would dramatically improve the game, whether or not they're characters from other games in the series. I think there's enough wiggle room that they could bring back 4 culprits without completely destroying 4 of the older games. It is possible to go back and replay a game, even if you know the culprit. It doesn't ruin things, right? I should note, the Nancy Drew games already contain indirect spoilers with their reoccurring characters. Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon is the worst offender because Tino Balducci and Charlena Purcell both appear in other games. So if you're playing the games out of order and then play Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon, you can correctly assume both Tino and Charlena are innocent, leaving only Lori and John as the real suspects. Anyway, that's the big change I would make to save Ransom of the Seven Ships. I would have 4 former culprits as the 4 suspects. There are plenty of other, smaller improvements that could be made. Either make the game map smaller or make the golf cart faster, because navigating the island is a pain the way it is now. The sailing navigation is also a pain, because the wind usually blows in the opposite direction of where you want to go. It's almost like they were trying to make the game longer by having it take so much time just to get anywhere on this mostly empty island. Make it so the one monkey game isn't just random chance. Yeah, that's a good idea. Get rid of those falling rocks when climbing. Or you could have them appear half as often, because dodging random rocks isn't fun. Make Nancy's air tank last longer, so you don't have to refill it 3 times when playing underwater Sudoku. Yeah, those are just some ideas I thought of off of the top of my head. There's probably more ways you can improve this game. But the big problem in the game is the lack of characters. The game needs 3 or 4 suspects, not just 1. I would lobby hard for having all the characters be former culprits. If I couldn't get that, I would ask them to be former characters. And if not that, then at least just have multiple characters in this game because the game desperately needs them. Thanks for watching. Feel free to share your own thoughts on how to improve this game, or say which culprit lineup you would pick. If this video is popular, I'll probably do ones for other unpopular Nancy Drew games, like Creature of Kapu Cave, Shattered Medallion, and Midnight in Salem.